Hi, I'm Mel Hewitt, and hopefully you've seen a couple of our other videos. I've talked to you about the civil justice and the criminal justice system. What I'd like to do this time is maybe answer some questions that we maybe haven't answered in previous video, kind of take you through the system and how to navigate that system as a victim, what you're going to have to go through and experience and respond to get the justice that you're looking for. In a civil case, for example, the state can decide at any time, no matter what happened, no matter what the incident was, the state can prosecute or not prosecute, or settle the case, not settle the case, do a plea agreement. It's the state that's in charge. In a civil case, it's the victim, survivor, that's in charge of that case. One of the problems in civil and criminal cases is the injured individual, the victim, the survivor, or their family, in the case of a wrongful death case, is going to have to relive much of that case and much of what happened. So we try to be sensitive to the impact that's going to have on the client. The civil justice system oftentimes creates perhaps a feeling or some sort of comfort that they're in charge of the entire process. Yes, they have to sit for depositions. Yes, they have to answer questions. We're going to be with our clients throughout the system to make sure they're not re-traumatized. Sometimes people are concerned about basically navigating the civil justice system. What happens is a person that decides, hey, I want to pursue something through the civil justice system. They'll see a lawyer. Some people say, well, how do I find a lawyer? Okay, well, you want a lawyer who's familiar with the area that you're going to pursue. You don't want to hire a tax attorney to do your injury case. You don't want to hire an injury attorney to do your tax case. You want to look for people that have got experience in handling the kind of cases, the kind of situations that you've experienced or a family or loved ones experienced. In the civil justice system, particularly in a case where there's criminal activity, there's been a criminal involved, there's been a rape and assault, the lawyers are going to gather up all the information about where something may have happened, where the incident happened, the surrounding area, what the crime was, what the crime rates were. And then you're going to want to find out what did that particular property or area do to try to mitigate those things from happening. The next step in the process is typically either a rep letter will be sent or a lawsuit will be filed. After a lawsuit is filed, the defendant will be served, the sheriff or the marshal, depending upon what court you're in, will go out and serve the defendant, the people that were negligent in allowing a situation to happen. They'll serve them or their agent. And then that particular defendant or defendants will have 30 to 45 days to answer. We file cases in both state and federal court. If it belongs in federal court, we'll take it to federal court. Depositions will be taken. And again, depending upon the type of case, how many or how long those depositions will last, it depends. There's no real good answer for how long that will take. And depending upon the judge, depending upon the court you're in, you're going to be up when your number's called by that judge. Anytime during that entire process, the case can be settled. Anytime during that process, there could be mediation. If both sides think they can maybe get together, maybe have a neutral, take them to a point where nobody's really happy, but nobody's really that unhappy, where a case can be resolved. One of the things that people just don't realize, the victim doesn't control anything in the criminal case. And some people believe, well, we have to wait. Some are even advised, we have to wait until the criminal case is over. That's simply not true. Sometimes people want to know about the statute of limitations, how long you have to bring a case. The typical lawyer answer is, it depends. Generally, in Georgia, and it varies from state to state. Tennessee, for example, you have a year to bring an action. Georgia generally has a 2-year statute for an injury. Now, if you're the victim of a crime, that can be extended to a longer period, to up to 5 years, depending upon what happened in that case. So if you're going to seek legal help, the sooner you do it, the better. But generally, the statute of limitations for a personal injury case is 2 years. But victims of sexual assault have a longer statute. Children have a longer statute. For example, they may have at least 2 years after they're 18 to bring the action, or during the period they're minors, a parent or guardian can bring that action for them. If the government's involved, there's something in Georgia, and Georgia is the exception rather than the rule. Georgia has what's called an ante litem statute that says, hey, if you're going to sue the government, you have to send us a notice. If we're a county or the state, you've got a year to send us a notice. Statute of limitations doesn't matter. If you don't send us that notice, you don't have a case against us. If you're a city, you've only got 6 months to tell them, I'm unhappy with the city, with what happened, with one of your officers, with one of your employees. You have to give them what's called an ante litem notice and put them on notice of your claim. Then the normal statute of limitations will kick in. Criminal case is entirely different. For example, in what the civil lawyers would call a wrongful death case, perhaps the prosecutor may call it a manslaughter or a homicide case. And there's entirely different statutes of limitations on each type of crime and in each system. Sometimes people want to know, are we going to sue the perpetrator? Who are we going to sue? In the civil justice system, really all we can achieve for our clients is some sort of financial recovery, financial restitution to help them pursue justice. Very often, because of the way the law is, again in Georgia, and you have to check in each state what the laws are for recoveries. But in Georgia, we very, very seldom file the action against a perpetrator. Sometimes we get a question about, well, what if we lose? What can we do? Can we retry it? In civil cases and criminal cases, again, there's a difference between the two. You cannot be tried for the same crime twice in a criminal action. If you're found not guilty, the state can't come after you again. In a civil case, either side has the right to appeal. Sometimes we see those on TV where this case was appealed, it went to the Supreme Court of Georgia or one of the appellate courts of Georgia, or even perhaps the United States Supreme Court. So there's an appellate system where you can appeal. It doesn't mean you have necessarily an absolute right or that appeal will be heard, but you have the right to seek an appeal saying, hey, the judge gave the wrong instruction, or this evidence came in and shouldn't have. To answer that question, even if you lose, possibly is there a right to appeal? Yes. If you're looking for a provider other than a lawyer, CJCC, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, has a list on their website of all kinds of sources that a victim can go to, including information about victim compensation. There are also sites, the National Center for Victims of Crime out of Washington. They can recommend lawyers in any state that are familiar with the type of trauma that a victim's experienced. At Isenberg and Hewitt, we'll gather the information necessary to support the claim and pursue the claim and prepare the claim to go to trial. But every case will put the time, the energy, the money, everything that's needed to prepare that case to be tried and set for trial. We'll take the client through that system and be there to support that client through the entire system. We treat every case as a top priority. We listen to our clients. We do the research. We do the work. We do the preparation to get that case ready for trial. We've got the experience. We've got the resources to handle any case where a client thinks we're the right fit for them and we think we're the right for them. And as a team, we'll get justice for our clients. If you have any questions or want to talk to us, reach us on our website, Isenberg-Hewitt.com, or give us a call. We'd be happy to discuss anything with you.